How you doing, Ari?
Good.
All right. All right, we're coming back from Mala Adumim. I think you were there with me, right?
I was.
And I am Rabbi David Katz with...
The Ari Lewis Show.
As always. All right, what are we talking about?
Ger Toshav.
Ger Toshav. All right, we just came from Mala Adumim. And... Is it right?
Yeah, it's recording.
All right, good. It looks high, but it looks good. We had a public speaking engagement in Mala Adumim, speaking about the Ger Toshav, and they asked us a bunch of questions going in. What is the Ger Toshav? How is it relevant today? Is the Ger Toshav coming back? How do we have status Ger Toshav? Is it related to the Gula? And it's kind of a question how that turned out, isn't it?
Right.
I am allergic to the question, is there Ger Toshav today? Or can you define Ger Toshav? Simply because there's not a simple Ger Toshav in definition. And one of the points that I brought up there, if proverbial you are going to say a Ger Toshav is an alien, resident, stranger, friend, companion, bosom buddy, whatever, in the land of Israel, whatever definition you want to put in there, what you're really doing, and you don't realize you're doing, you are drawing from different types of Ger Toshav in definition, and you're kind of making a chulent or collage of different kinds of Ger Toshav. For example, in Avodah Zorah 64b, one of the main hubs of Ger Toshav, 3 opinions in the Talmud. One is a non-Jew who renounces Avodah Zorah in front of 3 Chaverim. The second, which we paskin by, is the classic non-Jew who keeps the 7 laws of Noah. Thirdly, it is a non-Jew, Ger Toshav, who takes on the entire Torah outside of one thing. That one thing is he eats nevela. So that's one type. Then you have Krisis 9a, and which is a nice way of saying, what are the Gedarim of our Shabbos Goy? What makes someone able to be a Shabbos Goy or not to be a Shabbos Goy? L'maisa, the answer is very simple. Any non-Jew who takes on the 7 laws of Noach, it is Asr Lagamre to be Meshamashim as a Shabbos Goy. A Nachri is Mutter Deraisa, Asr Midrabanan to be a Shabbos Goy. Then obviously there's the Pilpulim and the Halachas basically saying when is it okay or when is it not okay. It's not like openly okay. And by a Ger Toshav, i.e. someone who keeps the 7 laws of Noah, it is never okay. Now, you have the period of the Rishonim, right? You have the Talmud Bavli is the Iker Talmud, and out of that you have all the terminologies, all the sources of the halacha, and then by the time you get to the Rishonim, I like to count 7 main Rishonim. You know who they are?
Who are they?
Go ahead and count. Ready?
Okay.
Rambam,
Ken.
Ramban, to Rashi, the Torah, Tosfos, Rush, Rif. How many is that?
That's 7 right there.
That's 7. If you've done that much homework, think about what you've done. The Rambam wrote on all of Shas. So you got the Rambam. Rashi wrote on everything. You got Rashi. The Rush and the Rif were the first Perushim and the Rishonim. Torah becomes the Shulchan Aruch eventually, right? The predecessor to the Shulchan Aruch. Taisus is on the page opposite Rashi, and Ramban is just your classic Rishon. Everyone knows the Ramban. Each Rishon, in any matter of Torah law, has a function. Have you ever seen the Rif?
Not in a long time.
So the Rif looks, in the ways that we print the Talmud today, the Rif looks like a regular page of Talmud, but as if it got severely edited. And whatever he says, you can assume that's his style, that's how he learned it, right? Mm-hmm. So there was a machlekes in the Talmud, why did the chicken cross the road? And the Rabbanim answered, to get to the other side. But some people argue that position. What would the Rif say?
He might say the chicken was going to...
The chicken crossed the road to get to the other side.
Yeah.
He wouldn't say anything else. So he leaves out all the discussion and he tells you what the answer is.
Huh.
The Rush is a nice commentary. In the back of the book, it goes through page by page and tells you what's going on. Rashi, as we know, is on the margin. Taisus is opposite that. Ramban has usually a separate book. It's not printed in every Talmud. Rambam wrote the Mishnah Torah on all of Shas, and the Torah became the Torah predecessor to the Shulchan Aruch. every Rishon in any particular sugya is going to have his angle. So if we're going to discuss Ger Toshav, Rashi, on one hand, has his own shita, his own style, but there's not a book called Rashi. So you don't have it like in the Mishnah Torah, like a set list of halachas like the Rambam. So you can assume what? That the Rambam would have a real inner enclosed world of Ger Toshav, correct?
Yeah.
By the very nature of his book.
Okay.
Tosfos has a daya, a view, always intertwining with Rashi. But remember, that's not a proper book. That's only on location as per their commentaries. The Rosh will have his own miniature book. So if you turn to 64b in Avodah Zarah and you look in the Rosh, he'll have a paragraph all about that. Rashi's not giving you a paragraph on anything. He'll give you a little guy. And then you got to, put together all the different Rashis from all over the place. And Taisus might have a little bit longer, but still, it's not a book. It's on location. The Ramban is known. He'll have maybe a little, kind of like the Rush. You can compare the Ramban to the Rush. And the Torah is essentially the Shulchan Aruch. So there you have a real legal book, but the Rambam and the Torah are different because the Rambam wrote about everything, and the Torah has a particular style, which for example, the laws of Mashiach doesn't exist in the Torah. That's not something that he would paskin on. The Rambam did. Did I leave anybody out? And the Rif again, as we said, on the page remains on the page. So if I want to know, is there a Ger Toshav today? Rashi's probably not going to tell me that, right? He'll say on location, it's this kind of Ger Toshav or that, but he's not a halachic authority in this matter, because we need like a book, like a law book. That's just the nature of Ger Toshav. If it was something else, Rashi's view of kashering meat, right? You say, it's a Rashi in Chulin 34b. You don't need a whole book for that, right? A kind of meat they found in Persia, making this up, right? Rashi says, you don't need a whole book for that. But for the Ger Toshav, the non-Jew, it's a big topic that essentially covers the entire Torah Masorah. It turns out that the Mishnah Torah Rambam, the Rambam wrote about it at length, many areas. He ends up being the Rishon that you can rely upon as the guy talking about it. You understand what I'm telling you? He talked about it. And it's no surprise that the Rambam ends up being the one talking about mitzvahs b'nei Noach and Ger Toshav. So that's all very abstract as I've related that to this point. So what I'm really, in a sophisticated way, trying to say is let's get rid of 6 Rishonim. The Rif isn't going to help you crack the code of Ger Toshav. Neither is the Ramban is not totally either. Tosfos, Rashi, all of your friends. But the Rambam, as it works out in Mishnah Torah, he is going to be a system where you may not agree with him. You may not want to go by him. But he talked about whatever your question is, he talked about it. And you'll find different shittas, like Rashi will disagree with a shitta in the Rambam. The Ramban will argue in an optional war Israel takes, Milchamas Rishus. Okay, the Ramban has a different view. But the Ramban is arguing with Rambam as for our discussion, because the Rambam is going to continue in his book. Now remember, the Rambam may not write about what the Ramban wrote at length about somewhere else. For example, why do we fast on Tisha B'Av? It's a psak from the Ramban. And the Torah Shulchan Aruch paskin it yet, Ramban. Why not the Rambam? Rambam, that's not his thing. Rambam said the ikar of the Rambam on Tisha B'Av is it makes you do tshuva, which is part of the halacha, but that's not why we do it every single year. We follow the Ramban and the Shulchan Aruch Torah paskin like the Ramban. Okay, if it would have been Rashi, in Rashi's case, he has his own thing. Okay. So the question becomes, I was always told that there's no Ger Toshav today because the Rambam said so in Isuri Bia 14:7 and 8. In 14:7, the Rambam quotes the Gemara Ezahu Ger Toshav, someone who has rejected Avodah Zarah, has not received Mila and Tvila, but accepted the rest of the laws of Noach, commanded to Noach, and they are considered of the Chasidi Amos Olam. Pay attention to what I'm telling you here. Then he says, so I can understand that that's called Ger. What does it mean, Toshav? I would think that there's something called a Ger Toshav. But why are you breaking it up into Ger and Toshav? As we find in the Chumash, nowhere do we find a Ger Toshav or a Ger Tzedek. It's always Ger, or Ger in your gate, or Ger V'Toshav, which is different from Ger Toshav. So the Rambam answers, Toshav it is mutter for him to dwell amongst Israel, or in Israel. That's Isuri Biyah 14:7. The very next halacha, Ger Toshav only exists in a time of Yovel, Jubilee. Even if he accepted the entire Torah outside of one thing, he is not a Ger Toshav today. So what does everybody read? Rambam told you in 14:7 what a Ger Toshav was. And then in 14:8 he tells you, by the way, there's no Ger Toshav today.
Right.
And that's usually when the books close and the doors are locked, and that's where the story ends. For like 99.9% of people dealing with Ger Toshav, that's as far as it goes. Now let's open it up. You want to open it up?
Yeah, let's be the 0.1%.
Yeah. So the first question, and I'm going to just present a lot of questions and answers for you in any particular random order.
Okay.
The first question becomes, where did Rambam get the idea to quote or copy and paste, there's no Ger Toshav except in his Man Yovel Noyeg? Where's that from? Did the Rambam make that up?
No.
Is that his Girsa?
I don't think he made it up.
Well, even if he received it from Rabbi Shmelowitz, where is that Lashon from?
Doesn't the Torah talk about Jubilee year and mention Ger Toshav in it?
Torah talks about a lot of things. Where does the Lashon of the Rambam come from? I.e., did the Rambam take pen to paper and say, let's call it Einsman Ger Toshav Noyeg? Did he do that?
I don't think so.
So where did he get it from?
I don't know.
Erechin 29.
Okay.
You look at Erechin 29, and there's the Lashon. I forget the exact Lashon, but Ein Ger Toshav Noyeg Ela Bezman Sheyovel Noyeg. So the Rambam was copy and paste. Agreed?
Okay.
And when it says Ger Toshav there, again, the 99% of people on planet Earth will read Ger Toshav, no Jubilee. They read it in the Rambam. They looked it up in Erechin, and it looks like the Rambam copied and pasted from Erechin. And I know what a Ger Toshav is. It's a resident alien dweller living da-da-dee, da-da-da. So obviously, there's no Ger Toshav today. Correct?
I'm not going to say that.
That's what we would assume.
Okay, that's what you assume, yeah.
But did you read Rashi? Remember, there are 7 Rishonim that we're going to play with here.
Right.
So if you read Rashi over there, Rashi tells you that this Ger Toshav, Oichel Nevelis, and rejected Avodah Zarah. There's 3 opinions in Avodah Zarah 64b. Oichel Nevelis, 7 laws, and rejecting Avodah Zarah. Rashi is telling you 2 of those bechinas are here. Why? Why does it matter that he rejected Avodah Zarah and eats nevelas? Why not that he's a 7 law guy? Did you ever think maybe it's not the Ger Toshav of the 7 laws of Noach?
So it's a different type?
Could be.
Okay.
So then Rashi tells you, hey, did you look up the pasuk? There's a pasuk over there.
Right.
And it's a Gezeres HaKasav. And the pasuk is in Devarim. I think it's 23:17. Don't quote me on that. It's the pasuk that flees his master. I think it's 23:17. I always forget that one. So there's a slave, and he flees his master.
Right.
From Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. That guy is called a Ger Toshav now. Has he rejected it? When he was a slave, how did he become an Evid? An Evid Kanani?
He stole probably.
Huh? No, I'm saying the process.
Oh.
Mikvah,
Right.
Mila, Mitzvahs Nahagis Beisha.
Right.
As an Evid Kanani. Right?
Right.
We don't know what kind of an Evid he was.
But he didn't worship idols once he became an Evid.
100%, right. But maybe he was another Evid that did not take mikvah or mila, but only accepted the 7 laws of Noach.
Okay, that's another type. Okay.
Another type. That's in the Shulchan Aruch 304. That's the second type of Evid.
Okay.
And now that he fled his master and went to Israel, that second type of Evid in a time of Jubilee can take on more mitzvahs in the time of his Gior and still be called a Ger Toshav. Look at the Biur Halacha in Mishnah Berurah 304 about this type of, either call him an Evid or a Sachir or Ki'ilu Ger Toshav. He takes on his 7, no Mila, no Tvila, but the beginning of his Gior, you call it a Gior, Ger Toshav, he wants to do X amount of mitzvahs. It's Chal, he's allowed. The only question becomes, can he take on Shabbos? Which we're not going to talk about right this second. Once now to go back to our guy, he's an Evid. Once he flees his master, he's no longer an Evid. The Rambam calls him Ger Tzedek.
Okay.
Pretty weird, isn't it?
Yeah, righteous Gentile.
A Ger Tzedek.
Right.
Not a Goy Tzedek, Ger Tzedek.
Ger Tzedek.
So then the Radvaz explains the Rambam. There's something called a Ger Tzedek Gamor, which you would call a convert, and just a Ger Tzedek, i.e. a Ger Toshav who does a lot of mitzvahs. So now, look what you got going on with the Rambam. You were trying to say that there's no Ger Toshav today. Then you looked up in Erechin. Then you read Rashi. And Rashi left out the middle shita of 7 laws of Noach. Why? Because he had rejected Avodah Zarah, and he's taking on more mitzvahs. It's not shaykh to say Zion mitzvahs. Actually, as I come to think of it, I forget if it said Zion mitzvahs or not. So, whatever it said there, whatever it said, I know it says Ochon Avelis, I know it says a little bit of Avodah Zarah. If it does say Zion mitzvahs, it's telling you which bechinas of Ger Toshav he is. Which an Evid takes on Zion mitzvahs b'nei Noach anyways. Look it up in Erechim 29. The nafkamina is in Yavamas 48b. Rashi Dafka leaves out the 7 laws. He says Nevela and not to serve idols. What does Taisus respond with? What about one of the 7 laws? You understand?
Right.
He's hitting up the other kind of Ger Toshav. So now you understand that in Erechin, it's not your righteous Gentile Noahide. It's an Evid who fled his master. So who is the Ger Toshav not today while there's no Yovel? An Evid.
An Evid, okay.
That's who Erechin's talking about. Understand?
Okay.
So the Rambam wants to say, today there's no Evid. Correct?
So that's what he means when he says no Ger Toshav.
Yes. And sometimes the Rambam will say of the Chasidi Omos Ha'olam, like in Asuri Bia 14:7. What can you assume there? He did not take Mila, did not take Tvila. It sounds a lot like an Evid. But he says he's of the Chasidi Omos Ha'olam, which means he voluntarily keeps the 7 laws of Noach. So now it's not an Evid. So the question becomes, why is he called Toshav? Because if he was an Evid, it's called Evid Toshav. And there's no Jubilee. so he can't exist. But the Rambam is suggesting he does exist. So he says, by the way, he's of the Chasidi Amos Oilam. And the next halacha, by the way, there's no Ger Toshav except for Zman Yovanoyig. Guess what, Ari? 7 and 8 are not the same Ger Toshav. 7 is not an Evid, because he calls him Chasidi Amos Oilam. And 8, it's an Evid, because he calls him not of the Chasidi Amos Oilam. He says he doesn't exist because there's no Yovel. So it turns out, to the Rambam, there's a Ger Toshav who's an Evid. And we call that Ger Toshav Evid practically a Ger Toshav. Why? Because what you call a righteous Gentile is someone who took on the 7 laws of Noah. This Evid is an Evid called a Ger Toshav because he took on
the 7 laws.
7 laws of Noach. And guess what he didn't do? He didn't get Mila, and he didn't get Tvila. Guess what we call a Noahide? A righteous Chasid Olam Ger Toshav. Also someone who took on the 7 laws and did not get Mila and Tvila. What's the nafkamina between the two? How can you discern between the two? One is called Chasid Olam, and one is not called Chasid Olam. So when the Rambam says anything Ger Toshav, along with Chasid Olam, guess what he is? Righteous non-Jew. If he does not mention Chasid Olam, you can assume that it's an Evid. And it doesn't exist today. Why? No Jubilee. So then it gets very problematic. Because what makes it clear is the Evid Kanani to the Rambam is called a Ger Tzedek. Why? It takes on the mitzvahs Noyegas Ba'isha, the mitzvahs for a woman. So when you read the Rambam, Hilchos Malachim, chapter 10, Halacha 9, a non-Jew that keeps Shabbos is Chayav Misa. A non-Jew that learns Torah is Chayav Misa. But if he wants to become Ger Tzedek, da-da-da. That Lashon, does the Rambam ever decide to write his own answers?
No, you said copy paste.
He copies and pastes. Where did he get this sugya from? Krisis 9a. Shvisis Evid B'Shabbos. Shulchan Aruch 304. The Evid Kanani. It is in every Shulchan Aruch printed in the universe. So when the Rambam is speaking about a Ger Tzedek over there, who is it? Evid Kanani. So then why is a non-Jew keep Shabbos Chayav Misa? It was the Evid who did not take Mila and Tevila, and only the 7 laws of Noach, and now he wants to keep Shabbos. No. You did not get Mila and Tvila, you're not a Ger Tzedek. But if you want to become a Ger Tzedek, you can do it. So is that a convert? No. A convert is called a Ger Tzedek Gamor, or a Jew. And the Rambam's talking about non-Jews. Then we slide over to Hilchos Malachim, chapter 8, halachas 10 and 11. And it says that we have a mitzvah to press the nations to take on the 7 laws of Noach. And if they do, they're called Ger Toshav in every place. Then the next halacha, 8:11, if they do it on their own das and not because it's written in Torah's Moshe, he is not Ger Toshav and he's not Echasid Amos Oilam. Here's the big question. In 8:10, when it said we have a mitzvah to press the nations, take on the 7 laws of Noach, and if he does, he's Ger Toshav b'kol makom. Which Ger Toshav?
Which one? I'm not sure.
That's the question.
Right.
You want to know why there's no answer?
Yeah, why?
Rambam didn't think about it. Copy and paste. Which means in order to know that, you have to run the formula of the Rambam through the entire Mishnah Torah. So the nafkamina would be, if the Rambam is saying there's no Ger Toshav Lagamre, then that Ger Toshav in the laws of Noahides is the Jubilee Ger Toshav doesn't exist today. On a deraisa level, it doesn't exist. To which the certain authorities will say, any non-Jew taking on the 7 laws of Noach that does not need a Shavua in Beis Din and a proper Kabbalah, it's enough that he does it and he is called a Chasid Me'omas Ha'olam. And therefore, there's no such thing as a Ger Toshav today on any level. Nafka mina, a Noahide comes to your house, can be mashamish as a Shabbos goy. Now, is that true? Remember, we, and this little view, have only looked at the Rambam, maybe Erechin, and we didn't look anywhere else. So if you expand your universe and your mind, if we assume all Ger Toshav is shaykh to Yovel, then that opinion would reign supreme. What if we can find the Rambam speaking Ger Toshav, non-Yovel, somewhere else? That's Lamaisa today. Then we would have to change our positioning, wouldn't we? There could be a Ger Toshav today. And guess what? We find it. There's a mitzvah in Parashas Rei, chapter 14, Pasuk Kaf Aleph. You give the nevela to a Ger Toshav, or Ger in your gates, and you sell it to a Nachri. The Torah Shulchan Aruch paskins Efilu Bezman Hazeh. So according to the Shulchan Aruch, which is a law book that most Jews hold by, from Jews, right? Or they should be. There is a Ger Toshav today, at least to give the meat to. Also, by wine, if you have a Ger Toshav, i.e. one who keeps the 7 laws of Noach in your home, he can be around your wine, and it's not Yayin Nesach. That's all fine and dandy for the Torah Shulchan Aruch. What about the Rambam? He paskins by the meat and the wine, calls him a Ger Toshav, and refers to Avodah Zorah 64b, the Psak Halacha of 7 laws of Noach. So guess what we find, Ari? There are Ger Toshav that are only with the Yovel. Call that an Evid, call that a Sachir, a hired worker. Then there are righteous non-Jews. They just wake up one day and say, I love Hashem. And they come to the wall with a little paper yarmulke and they put a note in the wall. Mm-hmm. That is synonymous with a Chassid Omos HaOlam. And he doesn't need a Shavua in Beis Din to become a Ger Toshav, even though he's a Ger Toshav. Because it's enough to identify him as a Chassid Omos HaOlam. But in a Jubilee Ger Toshav, he has to have a Shavua and a Kabbalah in Beis Din. Because we are in the land of Israel, we cannot have idolaters here. How do you know he's not an idolater? The first opinion in 64b, what is the first opinion of Ger Toshav? Having not serving idols with a Kabbalah in Beis Din. There's your first opinion. And then there's another Rambam. Again, there's a Rambam that says just a regular non-Jew keeping the 7 laws for the sake of din of a Yid. Shabbos goy, wine, meat, nafka mina, not to sell it to the Nachri. Or there's your Eved, which the Rambam would say there's no Eved today, but there is Ger Tzedek Eved Kanani, because it's a Gzeres HaKasuv in the Seres HaDibris. 2010, you arrest your maid, your donkey, your dog, your friend, and Barney. Right? So in that pasuk, it's your Ben HaMasecha and the Ger. How do you resolve the Ger? What is the Ger? That's the Iker question. In 2010, in the Seres HaDibris, a lot of the Meforshim call it a Ger Tzedek. And they'll say, you see, a convert that gets to keep Shabbos. How about duh? You hear that word duh?
Right.
Last time I checked, he was a Jew. Rashi says he's a Ger Tzedek. And what's the Chiddush? And not a Ger Tzedek Gamor. Meaning it's the third opinion of Avodah Zorah 64b at least or more. He's a non-Jew keeping everything. Because the Torah and the Meforshim deal with details. The Torah allows for a non-Jew to literally take on the entire Torah and not convert. It's called Ger Tzedek. Nothing is stopping him. He is allowed to, if he does it the right way, according as the Miri says. He does it the right way. He did his 7 laws, and he just keeps going. Should he want to convert, he can convert. Does he have to? Does not have to. Nafka mina, he cannot marry your daughter. A Ger Tzedek Gamor, who is a convert now, a Jew, can marry your daughter. A Ger Tzedek non-Jew obviously cannot. Most of the time they're told to not go to that level and to keep eating the Vela. That's why it says, anyone who takes on the whole Torah outside of one thing, i.e. Nevela, and that's Ger Toshav, the third opinion of Vodazor 64b. Why does he keep the mitzvah Nevela? That is his Iker mitzvah. That is how he is sustained by our mitzvah deraisa, mitzvah the chiyuso, to sustain him, which is a high level Ger Toshav, or the Ger in your gates. So now, in the 10 Commandments, we have this thing called Ger, and we have this thing called an Evid. And the Rambam says there's no Evid today, unless it's a full Evid Kanani, and you can say that Ger Tzedek of the 10 Commandments was really having nothing to do with a Ger Tzedek not Gamor, Kol Shekain not a Ger Tzedek Gamor, it was an Evid Kanani, who is Chayav in Shabbos like you. So the Hekesh of him with the Ger, and it says there, the Ger in your gate, also in Parshas Mishpatim, your maidservant will rest, and the Ger Vayinafash. Which some do a topsy-turvy. Whoever says Ger Tzedek in the 10 Commandments, they say Ger Toshav in Mishpatim, and vice versa. Basically, Rashi calls the Mishpatim Ger a Ger Toshav, and Ramban calls him a Ger Tzedek, and vice versa in the 10 Commandments. Really no big nafkamina in terms of how you give it over. And for that discussion, that's Yevamos 48b. For that whole discussion, in relation to the non-Jewish Shabbat, increases 9a. How you ascertain more than one kind of Ger Toshav, Makas 9a. Those are the 4 Makor Sugyas of the greater Ger Toshav world. So now you have, how do Rambam and everybody else, if we have the servant having to rest, is it for his own sake? Or for your sake, the Jew? Meaning he doesn't make you coffee on Saturday morning. Is that because you can't have coffee from him? You can't do malacha? And you can't have him do malacha for you? Or are you having him rest for his own sake? Let him rest, and Kol Shekain don't get coffee from him. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe in the Sikha Chelek Lamed Aleph discusses those nafkaminas as well. So one of the creative answers is a ger, call him a righteous Jew, non-Jew, whatever you want to call him. Once he's in your home, potentially by not being Jewish, he can make you a cup of coffee. In theory, you're not going to make a cup of coffee for yourself. That makes him now an Evid, not a real Evid, but because he theoretically could do something for you that you couldn't do. So now, even though the Rambam says there's no Evid without Yovel, we find that an Evid who's like a hired worker now exists. And that's why he's called Kamo Ger Toshav, which makes it even more problematic in the Rambam, chapter 20, Halakha 14, Hilchos Shabbos. He says there's no Ger Toshav outside of Yovel, but by the way, on Shabbos there is a Ger Toshav. Huh? One is an Evid Mamish, and one is not an Evid, maybe not even a Sachir. Says the Magid Mishnah, Lav Dafka is he a Sachir. He may be a hired worker, like a Ger, but he may have nothing to do with you on that level. It's called a human being who took on the 7 laws, and he cannot make you a cup of coffee, and he rests for himself, and he can do malacha for himself, even out in the open. Chiddush in the Lashon of the Rambam explained by the Rebbe in Sechus Chelek Lamed Aleph Parshas Mishpatim. So it turns out in the Rambam's Mishnah Torah, what do we find? There's something called a Ger Toshav. And if you stop there, you'll never get it. You'll say, there's no Ger Toshav except for Zman Yovanoyim. If you have a little bit of guts, you'll get out in Erechim and look it up in Erechim. And you'll say, you see the Rambam copied and pasted from Erechim, there's still no Ger Toshav, Chutz was Zman Yovanoyim. Right? But if you keep going, and you start looking in the Rambam, the Rambam will give you the ikr of every kind of Ger Toshav. Is he a Ger Toshav almost oilam? Chassidei almost oilam? Is he Ger Toshav who's related to the Ger Tzedek not Gamor? Is he a Ger Toshav related to an Evid? Is he a Ger Toshav who's a Ger Tzedek because he was an Evid who flee from his master? Every place in the Mishnah Torah there's a Ger Toshav. Sometimes it doesn't exist today because of Yovel. Sometimes it is halacha lamaisa. Sometimes it's called a righteous non-Jew. Sometimes it's a convert. And how do you know? Look for the ikr that surrounds every makor in the Rambam. Each place is unique, and it will tell you. So, for example, in Hisori B of 14:7 and 8, there's no Ger Toshav, Ein Zman Yovel Noyeg. You'll say, there's no Ger Toshav ever. Then you say, Hilchos Malachim chapter 8, Hilchos 10 and 11. It says there is a Ger Toshav, and is synonymous with Chassidim Amos Oilam. But we don't know what kind of Ger Toshav that is. So the answer is we do know, because there is a Ger Toshav today, the Rambam, in the wine and the meat. So it turns out the only question in the Rambam, according to the Grees of the Rambam, is how does he do Kabbalah? How does he actually take on Kabbalah? And what is the nature of his Kabbalah? So that, and this is Halach L'Maisa, he takes on the Kabbalah so that you know he did not take on the mitzvahs from his own das. He's a kosher Chassid Amos Olam called a Ger Toshav. Sheet of the Ramban and the Ritva. And the Ravid argues with the Rambam about the Yovel. And when you look at all these different Rishonim, by the way, the Ravid's a Rishon also, and so is the Miri. When you take all the different terminologies and all the different codes, it works out because it's called Deya. There's a thread of emes through all of this, in that there's method to the madness. And when we start generalizing and saying, I heard there's no Ger Toshav today, so there's no Ger Toshav today. That's one type of Ger Toshav. And the Rambam is called a slave, an Evid. And not even a full slave, an Evid Kanani, which he matirs. So I urge you, if you're going to read the Rambam, be Madayak in the Lashon. Not only the Lashon, look up the source where he copied and pasted it from. Look up the Lashon of the Iker describing every type of Lashon. And you'll realize as the Grees in the Rambam ends, the Sefer is saying, the words of the Rambam are very perplexing. And he brings the Raya, how can you have a Ger Tzedek who's like and is a Yisrael B'Kol Davar? He is a Yisrael. What do you mean like? You're almost like me, you're almost Jewish. What? The answer is there's a nafkamina between Ger Tzedek and Ger Tzedek Gamor. And you'll say, who needs those little distinctions? The Rambam does. Because he copied and pasted them from the Chazal. Chazal did make it complicated. Why? Ask Rabbi Akiva. But there's a difference between Ben Noyach Kosher, Ger Toshav, Ger in your gates, Ger Toshav Gamor, Stam Ger Toshav, Ger Tzedek Gamor. All these things. And they are not statuses. Well, I'm on the level of a Ger Toshav Gamor, Chetzi Kazayas, Knas, Rosh Hashanah, the Ikra Lamaisa did. That's who I am. No, you're not. You are called Bob, whatever your name is. The Torah has these distinctions to know the gedarim of a mitzvah or a halacha. If I want to know, I have wine in my home. And my non-Jewish friend came over. Am I doing an Aveira? Is it now Yayin Nesach? Do you keep the 7 laws? Yes, I do. Okay, good. I did not do an Aveira. Do you keep the 7 laws? No, frankly, I'm an idolater. Oh, great, I did an Aveira. So now Yayin Nesach. He never changed. You don't call him now, from Bob to the idolater Bob. I'm on the level of idolater Bob. The Gedarim are there to explain the mitzvahs and the dinim of the mitzvahs. And it's more of a refinement, and it's more of a madrega. And a madrega, in truth, is not a pyramid scheme. Oh, when I get to the madrega of being able to be around your wine, then I'll be real happy. It doesn't work that way. Madregas are not a pyramid. It's just a madrega. I'm on the madrega of eating the velas. I'm on the madrega of not doing avodah zarah. I'm on the madrega of keeping 7 laws. I'm on the madrega of guarding your wine. I'm on the Madrega of doing more mitzvahs. I'm on the Madrega of an Evid Kanani. I'm on the Madrega of a Stam Evid. I'm on the Madrega of a Sachir. I'm on the Madrega of a Chassid Olam. Madrega is not you. You are you. The Madrega explains who you are vis-a-vis a Torah scenario. A non-Jew comes to my home on Shabbos. Is he now mutter to be mashamish as a Shabbos koy? I don't know. Let's ask him. Where are you holding? Well, I'm keeping the 7 laws of Noach. Okay, so you're Ger Toshav. It is now Isser Deraisa and the Rabbanan to have you mashamish as a Ger Toshav. Or as a Shabbos koy. Yesh Shekoyach Ari Lewis Show.
Let's go after you.